Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sky, and I'm going to be looking at each class in depth for Diablo 4 and answering a very simple question. Is it for you? And in today's video, we have the Sorcerer. We're going to be going over the strengths of the Sorcerer and what makes them strong overall. Their class-specific mechanic, skills and abilities, as well as showing animations for some of them. Their super powerful ultimate skills in action, legendary aspects that we have released to us at the moment, and finally wrapping it all up with a quick summary of the class overall. Hopefully by doing so, we can steer you in the right direction to selecting a class that truly resonates with you. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we are also doing a giveaway for a free copy of Diablo 4, so to enter yourself, all you have to do is be subscribed and follow the link in the description below. Sorcerers shape the elements into whatever form is necessary to ensure victory. From hurling bolts of lightning to impaling foes upon jagged spikes of ice, and even raining down flaming meteors from the sky. They are exceptionally good at fighting from a distance and can adapt to almost any situation using different elements. Starting off with the strengths of the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer deals massive AoE damage that is just simply unmatched. They have some of the highest amount of control in the entire game, excellent mobility with evade, teleport, and other legendary powers and passives, and they are also an excellent farming class overall. The Sorcerer's unique mechanic is enchantment slots. They allow you to take skills not currently on your action bar and use them for passive effects to bolster and deepen your build. A couple examples of this are Ice Armor. Whenever you're struck, there is a 5% chance to apply Ice Armor to yourself, and even Meteor. Every time an enemy takes burning damage, there's a 3% chance a meteor falls on them. These actually could be incredibly powerful and change up your build greatly depending on what you're looking for your Sorcerer specifically. Every class has basic skills, defensive skills, and ultimate skills. But the Sorcerer has some unique skills that only they possess, and these are Conjuration and Mastery skills. The Sorcerer basic skills are going to be selected based on the damage type you are going to be focusing on more. These basic skills are Frostbolt, Firebolt, Arc Lash, and Spark. Moving on to some core skills. Core skills cost mana, and like basic skills, give off a different effect based on the type of elemental school you're going to be focusing on. There are 6 different types of core skills that you can use, and these are Ice Shards, where you launch 5 shards that deal 25% damage each. Frozen Orb, where you unleash an orb forward, dealing damage and exploding. You have Fireball, where you hurl an exploding ball of fire for heavy AoE damage. Incinerate, where you channel a beam of fire, damage increasing every second the enemy is in it. Charged Bolts, where you release 5 bolts of lightning that course along the ground, damaging enemies. And lastly, Chain Lightning, where you unleash a stream of lightning that deals 42% damage and chains between nearby enemies. Moving on to some defensive skills, they have Ice Armor, where ice forms around you for 6 seconds, absorbing 30% of your base life. Frost Nova, where you freeze enemies around you for 2 seconds. Flame Shield, where you engulf yourself in flames for 2 seconds, burning nearby enemies per second. And lastly, a fan favorite, Teleport, where you can constantly blink around the battlefield. Moving on to Conjuration skills, which is one of the Sorcerer's unique skills, you have Ice Blades, where you summon a blade of ice that damages nearby enemies and makes them vulnerable as well. You have Summon Hydra, where you summon a 3-headed Hydra and each head spits fire at a nearby enemy. And lastly, Lightning Spear, where you conjure a crackling spear of lightning that seeks out enemies. Moving on to Sorcerer's Mastery skills, there are going to be some nice hard-hitting AoE abilities that help you control the battlefield in certain areas and situations. These skills are Blizzard, where you summon a frigid blizzard that deals damage and continuously chills enemies in an area over 6 seconds. You have Meteor, where you summon a meteor that strikes the target location, dealing massive damage and burning the ground. Next up, you have Firewall, which creates a wall of flames that burns enemies for severe damage over 8 seconds. And lastly, you have Ball of Lightning, where you conjure a ball of lightning that slowly moves forward, continually zapping enemies. And lastly, we have the Sorcerer's ultimate skills, and these are extremely powerful. Starting off, you have Deep Freeze, where you encase yourself in a block of ice, becoming immune for 4 seconds, and continually chilling enemies. When the Deep Freeze ends, frozen enemies shatter for massive damage. Next up, you have Inferno, where you ignite a roaring inferno that pulses in and out of the target area, burning enemies for massive damage over 8 seconds, and then it explodes, dealing even more damage to enemies on the outer edge. And lastly, you have Unstable Currents. Lightning surges within you for 10 seconds, and whenever you cast a lightning skill, another random non-basic lightning skill is casted as well. I gotta say, the Sorcerer, in my opinion, has the most incredible looking animations in the game, and I'm super excited to get my hands on this class and see what I can do with it. Next up, we have a first look at some of the Sorcerer's legendary aspects, and some of them could be pretty familiar as we have seen them in the past. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, each power has to be unlocked by completing a specific dungeon once, and always comes with their minimum value if they have a dynamic value. Starting off with defensives, you have Snow Guard's aspect. While within your own blizzard, you take 10% less damage. Next up, you have Snow Veiled aspect, where casting Ice Armor makes you unstoppable for 2 seconds. And lastly, you have Aspect of the Unwavering. Taking direct damage has a 5% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. Moving on to the offensive legendary aspects, you have Aspect of the Biting Cold. Whenever you freeze an enemy, there's a 25% chance they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. After that, you have Aspect of Conflagration. While channeling Incinerate, your burning damage is increased by 20%. Then you also have Aspect of Control, where you deal 30% more damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. Then you have Elementalist Aspect, where core mastery skills cast at or above 100 mana gain a 20% increased critical strike chance. Moving on to the next one is Aspect of Overwhelming Bolts, where charged bolts gain 2 extra projectiles, but its mana cost is increased by 5%. Next up, you have Aspect of Piercing Cold, where ice shards pierce 4 times, dealing 20% less damage per subsequent enemy hit. Next up, you have Rolling Thunder Aspect, where charged bolts pierce but deal 30% less damage. After that, you have Aspect of Splintering Energy, where a Lightning Spear has 11% chance to spawn an additional Lightning Spear when you cast it. Then you have Storm Swell Aspect, where you deal 11% increased damage to vulnerable enemies while you have a barrier. And lastly, you have Aspect of 3 Curses, where Meteor deals 35% increased critical strike damage against healthy targets. Next up, we have Resource Aspects, with Aspect of Efficiency. Casting a basic skill reduces the mana cost to your next core skill by 10%. After that, you have Incendiary Aspect, where killing a burning enemy grants 5% mana cost reduction for 4 seconds up to 15%. After that, you have Prodigy Aspect, where casting an ultimate skill restores 80 mana. Each time Chain Lightning bounces off you, you gain 4 mana as well. Next up, we have Utility with only one, which is Aspect of Seared Flesh, where every 5 times you deal direct fire damage to an enemy, they are immobilized for 2 seconds. Lastly, you have Mobility, with Aspect of the Bounding Conduit, where you gain 20% movement speed for 3 seconds after you teleport. Next up, you have Charged Aspect, where collecting crackling energy increases your movement speed by 10% for 4 seconds. And lastly, you have Flame Walker's Aspect. Coming in contact with your firewall grants you 15% movement speed for 4 seconds. To wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, if you love massive AoE damage, super flashy animations, with a class that's very high skill cap, there's no doubt the Sorcerer can easily be your main. The Sorcerer deals cold, lightning, and fire damage with ranged attacks. Mana is their primary resource, and it is easy to deplete. So strategic use of their skills to make sure you get the most out of it is definitely critical. Enchantment slots are the unique Sorcerer class mechanic in Diablo 4, and it gives every skill a unique passive effect to further deepen your build. And lastly, the Sorcerer is fun to play and embodies the raw elemental magic you come to expect from the class. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, now you know just about everything that has been shown to you so far about the Sorcerer. And there's really only one question left to answer. Is it for you? Let us know in the comment section below, as we would love to talk with you all. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and until the very end, my name's Sky from the Comeback Kids, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!